For 16 years, Swami said no operation. And then, in a single moment, he suddenly changed his divine command.
And I was like shocked. I couldn't believe myself because 16 years of my life growing up, I had never heard these words. I had not expected. All my training was no operation now, no operation now.
Loving Sai Ram. In this Samarpan talk, Brother Ashutosh Pandit shares one spiritual lesson that is easy to say but really hard to do.
Link between action and fruits needs to be broken. That is where all the crux lies.
So how do you stay calm when life goes upside down?
When you have firm faith in Swami, you do your action and you have no anxiety of the outcome, Swami does the magic.
And by the end of this talk, you will know what surrender really means.
So I was thinking it may be an apt way to start by talking about what is not surrender.
Let's dive in.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering my humble and prayerful pranams at Bhagawan's lotus feet. Respected elders, dear sisters and brothers. It's a very festive year of Swami's centenary birthday celebrations. For me personally, this also marks an interesting milestone. Around today, probably this year, is also my own very silver jubilee, 25 years of performances, of connection with Dharmakshetra Mumbai. It was around 25 years back, I think in the year 2001, which was my first Ashadi play. I remember just sitting around here and my Balvikas gurus had trained me for the audition to say out a few lines, and I think I did a decent job. And then Kamla Aunty was here and then she was like, can you dance a little bit and all of that. So I did all of that and got selected for the first play. It was called Die Mine, Become a Diamond. And I still remember I played the role of Desire in that play. So it was a very interesting start to my performances at Dharmakshetra. Since then, I've been associated, as Anush was mentioning, in a lot of ways. Whenever I used to come back from Parthi, mentoring the students for Ashadi plays. I was also part of the founding team of this Samarpan program here in Dharmakshetra around 11 years back. So it's been a good homecoming again for me to be here today, and I would like to thank the team here, my brothers, for having me over to speak to you all. When I was thinking about what I could share with you all today, other than of course there'll be a few experiences, but I was thinking what would be a good theme to sort of join some of those experiences, right? So I was thinking about how this talk came about to be. So every year when I come over from the US, I try to come here at least once, if not more. I always make it a point to go to Prashanti Nilayam. Of course, the place has its own vibration, but there's a lot of memories associated with that place, and I feel like Bhagwan's there, so I should go there once, pay my respects or whatever, and then, come back. The problem is, I come here for 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm also working for a couple of weeks. So there's only 2 or 3 weekends that I have available to travel, because internet can be patchy there, and I don't want the work to suffer. So it has to be a very meticulously planned program. So I had planned to be there from December 5th to 8th this year, and everything was planned. Every weekend was planned. I'm actually heading back there in 2 days, so this is the last weekend that I have in Mumbai. Come 4th of December, and the news flash goes that the airlines are having problem, and Indigo Airlines is canceling all their flights. And I was waiting with bated breath to see what happens to our flight. And it was going to be in the morning at, I think, 10 o'clock or something. And in the night, 12 o'clock, I get a message that your flight's canceled. So I was like, okay, I'll go to the next day. Things are getting better. So 6th of December, I got no email from Indigo at 12. So I was like, okay, I'm good. And then morning, 6 o'clock, I was about to finish my last minute packing, and I get a message saying the flight is canceled. So I was almost feeling sad about this, that I tried everything, I made all the plans, and it's not working out, and I'm not able to go to Parthi this year. Everything was arranged, the taxi, the stay there, everything was organized. But it was not somehow working out. So I was like, what should I do? It was a Saturday evening. And then I was like, let me go to Dharmakshetra. And then I came here actually 2 weeks ago on a Sunday morning. I came here alone. There wasn't anybody, just with my family. And we spent some time. Nimish uncle was there, so we met him. And then I was headed back, and I was thinking, when can I now plan my Perthi trip, I haven't been able to do that, so make my trips, and everything started coming out. And the next day, I got a call from one of our brothers saying, so what are you doing, when are you leaving? And the last weekend before you go, we have a Samarpan talk, can you come and speak? And I was like, give me one night to think about it. And then I was thinking about it, and I realized this is Swami's way of saying, I have been giving you a lot of comfort all these years when you come here. It is time that you do a little bit for me, and then probably share your time with me, with people here. So I took that as Swami's command, and I'm here today. So I was thinking about, I did all that planning, all that effort went into it, and then as Swami always, very often does, went for a toss, and all I could think about is, surrender as a theme kept booming. So we've all heard a lot about surrender, and it's a very interesting topic. So it'll be my effort today to try and join the dots, and through my journey, share with you all how I have been learning about this concept and growing with it over the past few years. Once Swami had asked me a question. I'm actually forgetting what the conversation was. I should be better at my memory, but I remember giving Swami the answer. He had asked me a question. I said, surrender. And Swami asked, what is the meaning of surrender? And I was very young, probably in my 11th or 12th that time. And I said, Swami, leaving everything to God, almost like parrot, the reply coming out from a book. And then I realized Swami is sitting in front of me. I said, Swami, leaving everything to you. So I kind of course corrected. And then Swami said, that is not easy, that is not easy. So Bhagawan at that time emphasized the point that surrender as a concept is not easy, right? Like we all have been reading about it, listening about it for so many years. I mean, during the time of Krishna, he had said, Karmanya Vadikarasya Ma Phaleshu Gadachana. We've heard this thousands of times, which means that, you have the right to do the action, but not the right to the fruits. So we've been listening about it in multiple ways, but it's still not easy, as Swami said. Surrender is not easy because we all get distracted in our life, right? It's difficult to practice it on a daily basis. We close our eyes, we are there, and we open our eyes, and we are out of it. So my hope today is while I start, talking to you all and share some of these experiences, I try and unpack this the best way that I understand it. So it was, I think, in the year 1967 that my great-grandfather, who was at that time a legal luminary of the country, and he was representing the Bombay state, and he was in Bangalore at that time, and there was some case he was on, and someone suggested to him, there is a Baba in Bangalore, and you should go and see him. So without any preconceived notions or anything like that, he went in, and Swami called him for an interview with the family. So in that interview, amongst other things, Swami looked at him and said, you have an ulcer? And my great-grandfather, so as my Parnana, as I would call him, looked at my Parnani and said, he was confused because how did Swami know about it? He had not spoken about it to anybody other than her. And he said, yes. And Swami materialized. Vibhuti gave it to him, and the interview happened, and they went back. There was a surgery which was scheduled to happen in 2 months in Jamshedpur, actually. There was going to be a conference of surgeons there, and the best of surgeons were going to come and help him out. When the time came for the surgery, he had forgotten all about this Parthi trip. They did all the scans, and the doctors looked at it and said, there is no ulcer. There's not even a scar there. So we've heard of multiple stories like that, but when you grow up with a story of this sort in your own family, you have a different kind of association to it. This was in the year 1967. Since then, so this was my great-grandfather. So my grandfather started visiting Swami regularly. He was given a shivling by Swami. Swami had materialized the shivling for him. And for multiple decades now, Swami had said, do Abhishek on this every morning. So 4:30 every morning without fail. He has done it for multiple decades now. So he has had a lot of experiences with Swami, which has strengthened his faith. He was also more closely involved as part of the Central Trust about the last 10, 15 years. By default, my mom was a devotee by birth. So she was born in 1967. and which meant that I, of course, was also a devotee by birth, and have been making visits to Parthi even when I was not actually out of my mother's tummy. With that sort of a background, every day growing up in the family meant, to me, Swami and God were the same, which may happen to a lot of us who have had that sort of a background, right? And Swami could do anything. I still remember asking questions of my grandparents and my parents as to, can Swami do this? Can he do that? And the answer was always yes. So in my psyche, I was almost brainwashed, right? That Swami can do everything and he's God. And my early impressions, everything re-emphasized this fact. Not just in the family, but also my Sai family. So during my Bal Vikas days, during the Ashadi programs, I still remember, so Nimish uncle and others were not just my first coach in acting, teaching me how to say every line and how to intonate sentences and everything around that. But I think a very vivid memory that I have is after every rehearsal of an Ashadi program, we would sit down here and Nimish uncle would make us pray. So we would practice praying to Swami. And that used to be a very big part of all the rehearsals. So at the end of the final song that's characteristic of every drama, we would sit down here and pray to Swami. And at that time, he would say, pray for anything you want, and the intensity got built in there. So through these experiences, it was not just knowing that Swami was God, but also that bond started becoming very, very strong. Rehearsals would happen, we would go to Prashanti Nilayam and perform. This was of one of the plays, which came to be later known as the Vande Mataram play. This was again in the year 2002. So we would go to Parthi, perform, and we would have experiences with Swami there one-on-one, right? That again would re-emphasize our love for Swami, or something special was developing at that time. A very interesting incident as part of this play is I was playing the role of Raju, who was a Bal Vikas or a young adult from Swami's organization. And the whole play happened. And towards the end of the play, in the last quarter maybe, there was this song which went something like, what I yearn to see is only you. What my heart yearns for is only you, only you. As I was saying these lines again and again, and it was wonderful because you would stand in front of Swami, and for every line, the hand would go like that, and Swami looking at you and you looking at Swami, and somewhere in the middle of the song, Swami did like this. So I was like, okay, I'm performing, but how do I go? So it went on again. One more stanza happened, and Swami said again. And I was confused because the training was so intense. We knew every feet movement, every action of the hand, every expression of the face was decided. Like, how can I break that and go? But as soon as the song got over, Swami then he got up from the chair. As Swami was getting up, we all went, and he materialized Vibhuti for us, and he gave me the Vibhuti. And the last 10 minutes of the play, I acted with Vibhuti in one hand because I was thinking of my family that, I've gotten Vibhuti from Swami, I should go back and give some to my parents and all of that. The play happened, everything got over, the final Aarti time came. And I was standing there in the first 3 or 4 people because I was one of the lead roles. And Aarti started, right? It was actually not the regular Aarti, it was the Aharahata Avana Pracharita Aarti, right? So we did an Aarti on that one at that time. And I was having Vibhuti in my hand. And everybody started doing Aarti. There were 2 or 3 people. So Samant uncle came and Swami led the Aarti for him, took Aarti plate from his hand and gave it to me. And I'm thinking, what do I do with the Vibhuti? So immediately I had the Vibhuti because it was meant for me at that time, I guess. So I got the Aarti, I finished the Aarti. That sort of impression remained as to how Swami cared, how he was seeing me and everybody around me doing Aarti, had nothing and he gave me. So it was a lot of instances like this that had me develop my love for Swami. So initially, as I was saying, it was a matter of fact. I didn't question it. And then the bond started getting solidified, getting stronger. I started developing faith. It was almost borrowed faith through other people's conviction, right? I had these experiences where I was getting attention and love, but there wasn't anything to to have the real faith, and we'll get to that a little later in Swami. Yeah, so this was another Ashadi play. But before that, as I was saying, kind of going chronologically here, so what happened is, these experiences started happening. Now, I really wanted to go and study in Parthi because this had me hooked. I was like, okay, one day with Swami can do this. Imagine sitting here in Darshan every single day. And Swami had a school for kids all ages. I was in my 7th or 8th that time, right? And I was like, I want to join here. But it was a little too late. As some of you may know, it is admissions open in the first standard and then in the 11th standard. And it's very difficult to get in the middle of that cycle of 1st to 10th. As time passed, in one of the interviews that my grandfather got with Swami, I had told him that I want to study, and he put this request to Swami saying, my grandson wants to study. So then Swami asked what class he is in, and he said 8th. And Swami said after 10th. So I was like, okay. Swami said after 10th, so to still wait some time. So this Ashadi play happened actually here, and I think in one of those pictures that I'm talking to Swami, I was actually asking him, Swami, I want admission. And then, as I said, I think everybody behind, a lot of Balvika students in that place said, Swami, we want admission. And Swami looked at everybody and like, I'll give you all admission. And we all burst out in laughter, right, at that time. Interestingly, a couple of years later, when I was talking to one of my co-students in Parthi from Mumbai, we realized everybody from this group who had applied got admission in Parthi. In fact, there were a couple of people who went back after getting admission because they were really homesick and they didn't want to stay in Parthi, so they went back. So it was not their destiny to study there probably, and they had different things planned for them. But Swami had said, I'd give admission to all. He gave admission to all. So these kind of experiences started happening, right? And I realized that there was something special brewing here with Swami. I remember when I first got admission in my 11th standard, I was so smitten and so happy by Swami. I still remember this feeling wherein it was the first day of being there and Swami was there and we were going for darshan. And somebody said, I was packing, somebody said, okay, now it's time for school. You may find this weird, but it was a very real feeling at that time. And I was like, school? I have to also go to school here? In my head, I was thinking I've come here just for Swami. But the fact is I was going there to study, right? That hit me second. But this is just to re-emphasize the fact that longing for Swami was developing for the last few years through these experiences. And that was something special. But at this time, the love was based on almost blind faith, as you can call it, right? Swami Vivekananda has said, blind faith is not faith. Faith is born of reason and experience. Swami has said, faith without inquiry leads to fanaticism. At this time, it's still, and this is not to say that something wrong was happening. It is a very natural process. A lot of us have had this process, right? Wherein we go through this. But we should not mistake ourselves at that time to think, okay, we've seen this, we've done it all, and that's it, and we know it all, right? That is not the cycle. In fact, my father was a non-devotee when he got married to my mom. And my mom used to tell me that when he would go to Parthi, he would still go to Parthi because my mom was a believer in Swami. He would go there every year. And apparently he would ask people sitting there how much money was paid to you to come here and things like that. So he was very, very, doubtful of Swami and his ways at that time. And he transformed over the years based on first-hand experiences that he had. One of the experiences that really got him hooked was, so my mom was around 21, 22. She was very young, very healthy. She was very active. She would do horse riding. She was a dancer. She was an actor. She'd actually come to Mumbai to act in films. And she had also gotten roles in movies and things like that. And then Swami sort of had a different plan for her. And he had told her in a dream, isse acha bhi kaam ho sakta hai. But not to divert, she got a dream one day when she was walking very fast. And Swami is telling her, dheere chalo, tumko heart problem ho sakta hai. So she woke up and she told my dad, this is the dream I got. And my dad laughed it out, saying, tumhare baba ko dekho, tum itni fit ho, or you are completely fine. He's saying, you'll get a heart problem. 2 days later, she was admitted in the hospital for a heart problem. So he saw those kind of experiences firsthand over the years, and his faith started developing in Swami. So I'm narrating this short incident here to distinguish between the fact that sometimes we work on borrowed faith, which is fine, but also when you see things firsthand, it gets more solidified. Talking about surrender, faith forms the basis of surrender, and blind faith cannot lead to surrender. A lot of times it leads to laziness and unrealistic expectations, as I like to call it. Very early, probably in the 1970s, 80s, my grandmother was suffering from asthma, and she had severe asthma. Severe in the sense she would need injections and constant medication at that time. So, of course, it was a stress time at home, and one day Swami came in a dream, said, "Tumko asthma hai?" And she said, "Yes." He said, 20 kilo ka prasadam distribute karwa do, sab theek ho jayega. She got up. My grandfather and grandmother arranged for a bhajan at their home. They did the bhajan, distributed the prasadam. And next day onwards, she never had a single episode of asthma. I had asthma when I grew up as a kid. When I got admission into Swami school, I was like, okay, this is cool. Swami has cured my grandmother's asthma in a dream. I can see him every day. And growing in Parthi, you hear stories every day about how students have, unreal experiences with Bhagawan, wherein somebody is suffering a lot and he couldn't make a darshan. And when they come back, all the students come back, and then Swami is also making his way to the hostel and he does something and the boy gets cured. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here for a long time. My asthma is going to get cured, right? But that didn't happen. I still have asthma today. The thing is, you almost sometimes start believing कि यार ये तो हो ही जाएगा, आ गए हैं, surrender कर लो. But that time it is, again, that blind faith, borrowed faith concept that I was talking about. What I have come to understand about this, which I think is pretty common knowledge but is difficult realization, is that link between action and fruits needs to be broken. That is where all the crux lies. We do all the actions in expectation of the fruits. We may think, we may know it shouldn't happen, but somewhere down the line, we end up expecting. As long as that link remains, this problem is going to remain. And Swami sometimes adds to this confusion. What he does is, he will give things unexpectedly. So without an action, the fruit will come without the action. You've done nothing and you'll be like, okay, this happened. But he is seeing things across lifetimes. So everything comes because of some karma, but we don't see it in that way. We have a limited vision, right? But Swami gives things unexpectedly. My first memory of Swami is when I was a young kid. We were just seeing the darshan video, and I was thinking about this incident, wherein Swami would, as we saw, come around gliding, such a beautiful sight. And that music used to be just out of the world. For those who have been in Parthi at that time, you will know what I'm talking about. Like the Vedam and everything was also good when Swami would come, but the darshan music and Swami gliding and walking was just very beautiful. As a kid, I was made to believe that getting Pad Namaskar was really amazing. So when Swami would come for darshan, I think he came on one side. I was somewhere seated in the middle of the block. I walked, or I crawled rather, to this side. I would have been probably in single-digit ages, probably 9 years old or something. And I went in, got Pad Namaskar, came back. I was like, mission accomplished. Swami took a turn. I went to the other side. Pad Namaskar number 2. And then Swami was going to come to the third side. And I was thinking of a hat trick. So Swami came. I started my move, but then there was a Sevadal doing his duty who caught my leg, and I couldn't go there. And I was distraught. I was almost weeping when I came back. But as I was weeping, there was a hula over there, and people were like, and suddenly I was the attention. I said, what happened? And then Swami was calling me in the middle of Kulwant Hall, materialized Vibhuti for me and gave me there. He probably saw a small kid there who was feeling, distraught and sad. But that memory has remained with me to date as my first memory. Again, talking about, that bond of love getting stronger, Swami giving reassurances. He would give things unexpectedly in this manner, but when they came, you would remember it and cherish them. Similarly, my first year in Parthi, when I joined there in 11th standard, as I mentioned, some kids had left because they were homesick. I was part of that gang, the homesick gang, for the first few days. And we would roam around the Hillview Stadium and talk about how sad we all were. Some people left, but I thought, I'll wait for Swami to come. Swami was still in Vrindavan at that time. He had not come to Parthi. So I was like, I'll wait for Swami to come. I'll give Swami 2 days, and then I'll go back. Swami came. The first day itself, all of us came very close to Swami in the Kulwant Hall, and he gave us so much love and attention. And I think this was the time, one of these days, and I was just thrilled. He called me for an interview also in the first 2 weeks itself, and gave me enough love. So I was going to be there for 2 days, but yeah, I stuck around for a much longer time. In Parthi, when I was there for the first 2 years, my focus was, as I mentioned, about that, going to school and being shocked by that aspect. So it was always Swami. And that meant, which I understood much later, that I actually flourished in everything I did there. I was always kind of an average student when I was here in Mumbai. When I went there, I became above average. Not to boast about myself, but to show you the difference when the focus shifts to Swami, what happens. Get like 60, 70 here. And in Parthi, when I went to 12th, which was a tougher board apparently, the CBSE board, I got a 90+ score. So everything was going on very well. I would get Swami's attention, love. And then came the time for BCom admissions, right? After 12th, that was the natural progression for students like me who were on the CAE track, which is the commerce track. I was super confident, right, that I would get through it because I started taking him for granted. Came the time for entrance exams. I had obviously not prepared, except I think 1 or 2 days. I had done some little bit of work. I gave the exams. It was fine. The interview happened. That went fine. Interview with teachers. So that's the process. You write an entrance test, then you do the interview with some senior teachers, and then you get in. And then came the day of the results. So I was actually in a room with one of my colleagues, and I got a call from one of our uncles who was there waiting to see who got in, who didn't get in. Some of you may know him as Tushar uncle. So he was there, and he called me and said, Ashutosh, your name is not in the list. I was shocked. I was like, this is not possible. Ye kaise hua? And then after 2-3 minutes, I told him to check again. And then he checked, and he said, it's not there. The next 10 minutes of my life, that is again a feeling that I can very vividly feel right now. It was like I understood the value of what I was going to miss at that time. And I made so many promises to Swami that, we hear about this. If you do this, I'll do this. If you do this, I'll do this. And I was weeping like a kid. My friend who was with me at that time was consoling me. He had gotten in. So, I was like, what do you know about how I'm feeling? But anyway, that happened. And then when I made all those promises and I left everything, I was like, okay, nothing else to do. I get a call from him. He's like, Ashutosh, your name is there. I was like, what? He's like, your name was on the top of the list below, and the paper above it was covering your name. And I'm like, Swami has his own ways of making you realize what you are missing. So I call it the BCom admission fiasco that happened with me, but that stuck with me for a long time. And then you start getting, your own experiences, and you start understanding the concept of, because you start getting these tidbits, and you start seeing the complexity involved there, and you know what Swami is trying to do. But what I've found is these ad hoc experiences happening together or not are reminders for us. Swami would say, miracles are my visiting cards, right? He would give us things. He said very famously, Swami has said, I give you things that you want so that you can ask me what I've come to really give you. So this mentality, this attitude, in my understanding, can stay solid only if we have some form of sadhana associated in our lives. And to do any kind of sadhana, mind is a critical factor. To have a good sense of what we are thinking, being aware at every moment, is very critical. I remember in one of the interviews that I had with Swami was talking to everybody, and it was a family interview. He's talking to my mom, dad about different things, and then he looked at me and he said, don't roam around with friends. And then he went around, came back, I was like, maybe he's talking about something that I don't know. And again he said, don't roam around with friends. I'm like, maine aisa kya kar diya? I was supposed to be a very good boy. As I said, Bal Vikas and Ashade, I was not one of those naughty boys that come around. I was a very nice, seedha sada bachcha. So I was thinking, ye kya bol rahe hain Swami? Roam around with friends? Main to ye sab karta hi nahi hu. तो मैंने कहा कुछ तो होगा. So I told Swami, Swami, I don't roam around with friends. My mind roams around. और क्या बोलूँ उस समय? And Swami said, mind is like a mad monkey. You should know how to control the mind. And my thinking mind is like, okay, but ये कैसे करना है? मैंने कहा, Swami, I don't know how to control the mind. You only do something. And then Swami touched his hand on my forehead. I would like to think that is the only reason why whatever level of control I have today is because of that little experience. But that made me realize the importance of, so you see how it is building slowly, that first it was that borrowed faith, going on to developing that bond with Swami, then trying to understand these intricacies of faith and your own experience and how that needs to be strengthened through sadhana, right? Now, what is surrender? So what is not surrender wala part ho gaya. Now, what is surrender and how is it developed? And I think this is the favorite part for all of us, right? Swami's tests. In my understanding, Swami does these tests again and again. He tests our faith. And through this, we strengthen this basis, foundation of faith on which surrender is built. Swami himself has said, faith untested is no faith at all. Again, I was fortunate to have a living example at my home, my mom, who was tested for a really, really long time. Some of you may have come across her and known her. Her name was Arushi. She had a really long, 16 years long period of Tapassya that she did. As I mentioned, that she'd gotten heart problem at a very young age, and she was at her prime health at that time. She wouldn't be able to climb stairs. I have vivid memories of how my dad would lift her up and go 3 floors. We used to stay on the 4th floor. She had food restrictions. She wouldn't be able to sleep many nights. She had become half a doctor, the number of medicines she would take. But what this meant for her, she had a lot of time for Swami then. She would spend nights reading Swami's books. Even today at our house there is a library. 99% of books are Swami's books. And she had read them all. I mean, none of us in the house are good readers other than her, so all the books are from her. So she would read Swami's books all the time. I still remember, the bhajans going on a cassette player, and I remember Ravi Raj uncles, Ravi Raj Naseri, we all know him. His bhajans would go on. They became some of her favorite bhajans. They would be played on loop. And Swami, as a result, guided her continuously through these 16 years. So he tested her, but guided her through interactions, dreams, and I'll go through some of those experiences. But I was seeing this firsthand at home as to how faith is getting strengthened through these tests. Doctors had advised her to go for a surgery. And my mom said, I will do only whatever Swami says. And my dad's side, as I said, were non-devotees. So think about it, growing up, or rather living a life in a sasural where nobody believes in Swami, and doctors are saying do surgery, but she's saying I'll do only what Swami says. So there was some, and they were not wrong, they were right. Doctors had the opinion कि surgery करो तो करना चाहिए, तो आप क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो, ये तो पागलपन है. But then she had different ideas, right? She said, Swami is coming in my dreams. I have access to Swami through, going to Parthi. If he wants, he can tell me and I'll do it as he says. So she had, in a way, surrendered. So I was seeing this. So she had done her effort. She was doing all the sadhana that she was supposed to be doing. Not because she was supposed to be. I think she just genuinely felt like doing it. Because surrender is equal to total effort plus no anxiety of outcome. So she didn't have any anxiety of outcome. She didn't care about what happens with her health. She was like, I am going to do my effort and leave it to Swami. And what was her backup? Like access to Swami is, like on and off. We know that when we go there, it's not a guarantee that Swami will speak to us, right? And dreams, so explaining that to a non-devotee, like seriously, you're like dreams, you get a dream of a Baba and you'll follow that. So in 1996, we got an interview with Swami as a family. And at that time, I think it was my grandfather, if not my father, he directly asked Swami, Swami, do you come in dreams? Swami looked at us and said, yes, yes. Looked at my mom, asked her, 2 days back I came in a dream. And of course, Swami had come in a dream at that time. So he reassured us, the whole family at that time, saying, yes, through dreams are my messages. Then we told him, Swami, doctor is saying surgery. And Swami said, no surgery now. I will take care. Then he materialized a Vibhuti box for my mom and then gave it to her. It was this very box in the 96. I took this picture this morning, actually. So 30 years, we still have this box with us. And as a family, we thought, chalo, problem solved. Swami ne Vibhuti de diya. Jaisi wo box khola tha, my mom, it was heavy medicine smell. So we thought, this is definitely a cure, right? Problem solved. But then that was only the beginning. And as I said, it was meant to be. So itne saal, Swami kept testing. So another incident which I very vividly remember, we were once visiting Whitefield, and my mom sunk. She was really very bad, and she had to be taken and admitted to the hospital. And doctor said, now it's too much. Surgery karni hi padegi abhi. It's going really out of hand. But my mom held on to that madness, or whatever you want to call it, right? Surrender. She had said, Swami has said no surgery now. So at that time, Swami had already said no surgery. So now it is even more stronger for her कि ये तो नहीं कराना है until Swami says. My grandfather at that time was in the US because he was able to sit in the veranda. He was at that time serving as the Supreme Court judge, so he had more physical access to Swami. But he was in US at that time, so he couldn't make it back. And so we tried sending a word through some of the authorities. I think it was Chakravarti sir who told Swami that, Swami Justice Mishra's daughter is unwell and doctors are saying. So Swami apparently sent a message back saying, ask her to do what the doctors say. Now this was again clear. And my mom is like, okay, I hear this. She had made special requests with the doctors, by the way. Even though she was in the hospital every morning, she was in wheelchair going for darshan, coming back. She's like, I'm going there every day. Swami is seeing me every day. I'm in the front row in a wheelchair. If he wants, he will tell me. I'm not trusting anybody. So this was like, as a kid, seeing these from close quarters, this is when your faith starts getting like, you start questioning things and you're like, come on, do it. Doctor is saying, Swami has said do it. But she was firm in her faith. She had clear understanding, absolutely clear. She didn't get operated. My grandfather had to eventually cut short his trip from US and come back to Parthi. He got an interview, and in the interview, guess what Swami said? No operation now. And my mother was like, see, I told you, there's something going on. Many years later, we had gone to this person in Lucknow who would read the Bhrigu Sangita. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this concept of Bhrigu Sangita. It's almost like that Nadi Shastra wherein, somebody, there's a really, there's a saint kind of a person who has the ability to read your past, present, and it's all written for you. And it was fantastic. This was genuine because he would tell us things that our own family members didn't know. Like, I think he told when they were doing the reading for my dad, he was reading out the relatives' names, and he read out my dad's sister's name as Krishna. And my mom was like, this is wrong. Your sister's name is Shalini, right? And my dad was like, no, before marriage it was Krishna. After marriage it changed. So it was that precise, that Bhrigu Sangita reading. So when we went many years later to this Bhrigu Sangita place, and we were reading my mom's chapter or whatever you call it, they said at that time, she was under the Markesh time frame. Mrityu Yog was there. Had she gone for a surgery, it was highly likely she would have not survived. We as individuals don't see these things. Doctors do their bit, we do our bit. But when you have firm faith in Swami, you do your action, and you have no anxiety of the outcome, Swami does the magic. And that is what true surrender is, what I was seeing from very close quarters. My mom's tests continued. I remember one Ashadi play. So as kids, we were seeing this, imagine, from 1991 to whatever, till my 12th standard. We grew up seeing mom like that at home. So every prayer was, Swami, my mother has heart problem. My mom had taught us to never ask for a cure. We would never pray to Swami, Swami, cure my mother or fix her. She had said, say this and say, do whatever is best. So that prayer is still ingrained in me. I never ask Swami for anything. You say, Swami, I complain like a mother that this is going on. You complain to your mom. I don't ask for the resolution. At the end, you're like, do whatever is best. Because you've seen these things happening in life. And you're like, what you ask for may not be the best thing here. So just leave it to him. do your piece and detach from that outcome, right? Detaching from action from outcome is what the trick is. So in one of the Ashadi plays, at the end of the play, I asked Swami, my mother has heart problem. And Swami said, no heart problem, only gastric problem. And we had heard again so many miracles of Swami. I was like, okay, maybe when I come home, if not the next day, in 1 week, the heart problem is going to go away and she's going to have just gas. What happened after that? She got a lot of gastric issues. She had to be admitted into the hospital, but heart problem didn't go. Similarly, she got a dream once when she was talking to Swami about her health, and Swami said, boil, boil, boil. After that, she got numerous boils on her body. Again, something that had to be treated. The heart problem didn't go. It became so much Swami's guidance and involvement that we were almost scared when my mom used to say that she got Swami's dreams. Because we were like, ab kya hone wala hai? So, it became a very, very mixed feeling for us whenever Swami's dream would come. As I was saying, she was living through these episodes. She was doing this Tapassya, but she was also living Swami's message. It may be partly because of the sadhana, partly because of her upbringing, partly because of her past births, whatever it is. But to me, at home, I was seeing a shining example of an ideal human being. Anybody who has met her will vouch for some of the things I'm going to say. She would treat rickshawala guy, somebody who was a house help, or the president of Bollywood celebrities, and she has met all of them with the same way. And it's not just me saying that or vouching. In one of the dreams that she got with Swami told her, everybody was sitting in Prashanti Nilayam, and Swami told her, ye sab, pointing to others, ye sab sach bolte hain. Main aur tum sach mein jeete hain. So we live truth. In one of the interviews that we got, I think this was in 1996, probably the same interview, Swami told all of us that she tries to see me in everyone. So it was through these things that we got a validation कि Swami ka message you live in your daily life and it will work miracles and wonders. Because once you have this form of truth and this ability to not associate yourself with the fruit of the action, that is the ultimate truth. Because you start thinking about who am I and who's the other person and what's the difference. Are we different? Are we the same? And this truth manifests in the form of love. Because in true love, there is no ego. So that's how surrender, love, ego, I was seeing as all very connected. And God's grace follows after the exhaustion of ego. So through all these years, she was going through this karma cycle and going through the grind. And then sometime in my 11th standard holidays, so once we went back home, my mom again had a very bad health episode and she was admitted. And my grandfather and I actually, it was just the two of us if I remember correctly, went to Kodaikanal. Swami was in Kodaikanal that time. We thought we'll go there and ask Swami for guidance as to what we should do. Because there are lesser people there and Swami was there, so maybe we'll get a chance. We were there for I think a good 2 or 3 days with hardly any people, and Swami didn't even look at us. We went back home. There was again a test Swami was taking. When we came back, I came back to my school year, and the second day, I was sitting in darshan, the 5th or 6th row, Swami calls me. And he does this, and I go, and as always, I say, Swami, he said, what happened? I said, Swami, my mother has heart problem, she's not well. And as if he knows nothing, he's asking, kya ho gaya? So I said, Swami, heart bahut bada ho gaya. So she had a mitral valve leakage because of which her heart had swelled into, I think, 2 or 3 times the normal size of the heart. Swami said, okay. And then I think in that photo I was sitting and he materialized a chain. Swami had already given me a chain in the 96 interview. He had said, good boy, study well and all that. When he gave this chain, I was like, oh, I get a second chain. And I went forward as if Swami is going to put, and Swami asked me to give me my hand and said, for your mother. So Swami created this chain for my mother and said, and then I was almost about to sit down. But then I got a doubt. So does this mean now that she'll be cured again with this chain, or is it one of those? Or फिर क्या करना क्या है अभी? तो मैंने Swami, should we to go in for operation? And Swami said, yes, do operation. And I was like shocked. I couldn't believe myself because 16 years of my life growing up, I was probably 17, 18 that time. I had never heard these words. I had not expected. All my training was no operation now, no operation now. Then Swami would say no operation now. He wouldn't say no operation, huh? And he said, go ahead and do the operation. we finally went in for the operation. Swami was kind enough to guide, ki Parthi mein nahi karo, Bombay mein karo, who was the doctor, everything Swami was made aware of. And just before going, Swami gave me some prasadam, it was Vibhuti, blessed it, and said, don't worry. I came to Mumbai. Mom's operation started. It was supposed to be, I think, a 4-hour operation. 5 hours happened, 6 hours happened. Doctors came out trying to explain kya ho gaya. So they said, we have done whatever we could with the heart, but you operate on the heart, and when you have to put it back, it is not responding. Now at that time, we are all thinking, what is all this? Like, you stay 16 years, you do this tapassya, you follow everything he said, and now he tells go for the operation. Muh kaise dikhayenge log ko? Almost that feeling. I was constantly remembering Swami's words of don't worry. Why would he say don't worry? Matlab kuch to hone wala hoga, don't worry. So I was staying positive. My grandfather also, you remember the interview wherein he came back and Swami had said no operation now? At that time he had asked Swami a question. Swami, will my daughter ever get back to normal? And Swami had said, of course she will. So he remembered those words of Swami. Anyway, 5 ghante ho gaye, 6 ghante, 7, 8, 8 hours. And after 8 hours, the doctors came back saying, she's fine now, the heart's responded, the surgery is a success. And obviously there's a lot of emotion there. My father was so overwhelmed, he almost cried, fell at the doctor's feet, almost as if, Swami had worked through him and all of that. And after the operation, when we went to Puttaparthi, so thanks Swami, Swami had called us for an interview at that time. And throughout the interview, believe me, we tried to mention to Swami once or twice, thank you kind of a thing. And Swami was acting as if he had no idea of what has happened. I was almost taking no credit for it. That was another lesson in itself, right? So what you're seeing here is some pictures of me with Bhagawan playing different roles in different dramas. So I did a lot of lead roles. I had directed plays in the hostel. That middle picture that you see, I was playing Tukaram. And the way the teachers had planned it at that time was that Tukaram goes onto that Vimana. So they had built a Viman for me in Kulwant Hall. I would sit on that, and there were people on top of the pillars, and they would pull the strings, and I would come up. So this rehearsal would be done in Brindavan, Sundar Sai Ramesh Hall. So a couple of times they would do it without me. And when they would do it without me, I would see it going like this, all the way up. And I would get scared कि मैं बैठूंगा तो क्या होगा. So Ramesh Hall में 1-2 बार हो गया, खुल्लन थोल का टाइम आया, मैंने बोला, now it's time to put this in action, जो भी teaching होती है. I actually didn't even have an option वहाँ पर. तो आँख बंद करके स्वामी पे छोड़ो, अपना काम करो, अपना dialogue बोलो. And then of course, it went up and it came down properly. And Swami was seeing me going up, coming down. So these kind of experiences kept happening, and again reinforcing that aspect of do your action, leave the rest, right? The last picture you see was from a very interesting episode. So it was the year 2011, I think. I had already been in Swami's institutions for a good 6 years. I had done a lot of these lead roles and all of that. And again, the ego was trying to pump up a little bit. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a sports meet drama. And Swami was starting to show some signs of withdrawal. He would come for darshan less frequently. And there was this drama option. So dramas became a very good opportunity for students to be in front of Bhagawan and get access to him. So we were told almost in the last 2 or 3 years that you had to either choose the sports meet or the drama. You couldn't do both. We had to make that choice because there was a lot of students then. And when that happened, we were always drama boys. So I was like, I will do drama. When I was in my first year of MBA at that time. And then what happened is some of the teachers made a plan that we'll give opportunities to only the senior students, second year students. These guys will have a chance next year. So they said, Ashutosh and a few others who were us, you guys go for sports meet this year because we won't be able to give you good roles. You'd end up playing probably if there's a king, the play people who fan the king, things like that. And then we were in a fix, ki kya kare? But whenever I had directed plays, I had given a lot of gyan to the other students saying, every role is the same, small or big, all of this. I was like, now it's time to walk the talk. So I will still go for the drama. And I said, okay, we will still do the drama. And a few weeks passed, and I did my bit again, put in my effort, did my best. There was also an inter-house drama at that time, and our house won the competition. I don't know if that played into this or not, but when the final list came of all the actors who were playing the roles, I got the opportunity to play Krishna. And I was playing Krishna in this drama, which was called Bhagavatamu. So Swami would say Bhagavatamu is Bha is Bhakti, Ga is Gyan, Va is Vairagya, Ta is Tyaga, and then Ma is Mukti. So Bhagavatamu, I was playing the Mukti scene. So it was Krishna and Radha. So for those who don't know how this episode played out, very briefly I'll narrate this. So what happens is when Radha is in her final stretch of life, Krishna comes to meet her. This is an experience Swami has narrated. So we enacted the same thing. And Radha asks Krishna to sing a song and play the flute. And Krishna is like, I have stopped doing these things many years ago. I can't do this. So Krishna was, as he would do, playfully testing Radha at that time, even in her last moments. And Radha breaks out into a song. It's a very famous song, Pata Padu Ma Krishna, for those of you who may be inclined. And at the end of that song, there's a crescendo, and Radha is about to drop her life, and Krishna breaks a twig from a tree, plays the flute, and Radha passes away. Now, this was the scene of Radha Mukti, and after all of that surrender that I offered, I did my efforts. At the end of it, I get to play God in front of God in the last drama that was ever done in front of Swami. So that blessing came upon me because, again, had I said, okay, I'll go for sports meet, this opportunity wouldn't have come. It's not that sport meet was a more attractive option or I made a big sacrifice, but I was staying true to my spirit of doing the effort. I'll turn my focus to a couple of experiences post-Samadhi and how this is still continuing, right? This is all a journey. By no means me or anybody, most people at least I know around me are there yet. We're all growing. So how does this work after Swami? After Swami is gone, the emphasis on formless is increasing. Swami himself in the last few years, in all his discourses, would stress upon how you and I are one. God is one. There is no formless. So he was positioning us, and my batch was in a very interesting place because in our first year, so we were there for 6 years, I'd seen Swami in my final MBA years. First year Swami was around, and second year Swami was not. So we got to be there for 1 year. So what happens is we get used to Swami's guidance, right? When Swami is around. अब स्वामी ने मुझे बताया कि 12th के बाद क्या करो, बीकॉम करो, बीकॉम के बाद MBA करो, कहाँ करूँ वो भी बताया कि परती में करो. तो all major decisions of life, मॉम को ऑपरेशन कहाँ करना है, क्या करना है, स्वामी ने बताया. So all of this, Swami got us spoilt. We got used to the form. But then, उसके बाद क्या? And Swami still shows us his presence, his guidance in different ways. Talking about major decisions, a major decision after I passed out was my marriage. And of course, my wife and I had never met while we were studying there, although we were both part of Swami's institutions. But after that, we ended up meeting. But I'm a Kashmiri Pandit who grew up in Mumbai, and my wife is from Andhra. So very different cultures. And there was, some aberration like, ये कैसे होगा, क्या होगा, problem होगी, नहीं होगी. Especially my wife's parents, they were slightly more traditional, so they had their own concerns. And so what happened is, my mother-in-law got a dream when she came to know the marriage is going to happen. She had not met me, seen me, heard about me as such. And in that dream, Swami was showing her a boy. She saw a boy's face in Swami. The next day when she wakes up, my father-in-law from somewhere, he had found a picture of mine on LinkedIn, I think. And he was showing my mother-in-law, see, this is the guy that your girl likes. My mother-in-law is like, this is the same picture that I saw in my dream, and Swami was showing me. So he showed that presence. Many years later, my wife and I, we were thinking about when was the first time our picture was clicked together. It was actually a picture, my wife getting a sari from Swami. It was on Valentine's Day, and I am behind in the background there. So it's 3 of us with Swami on Valentine's Day. It was another reassurance. When was the first time my wife and I were in the same room together? It was when Swami was giving an interview to 10th and 12th class board students, which he had not done for decades. And I don't think he had given boys and girls this interview at the same time in the bhajan hall. And what does Swami speak in that interview? He speaks about, to 12th standard and 10th standard students, he's saying, how should you conduct yourselves after marriage? He's telling me things like, if you have misunderstanding, miss will go away, and all those kind of jokes he's cracking. He's talking about marriage to 10th and 12th standard students. So Swami has his ways. Even after he's gone, there are links you can find. All you need to do is do your effort, leave the rest. De-link the outcome from the effort. When I went over to the US, as I said, I try and come here once a month. My company was planning to send me to Canada for managing some of the business over there. And there was a visa issue, so they sent me for a week back to India. It was going to be 2 to 3 weeks. This was in the year 2019. 2 weeks became 4 weeks. The visa was not getting processed. 4 weeks became 8 weeks, became 3 months. 6 months, I was in India. I was still working, so no, and there was no problem financially. It was the same pay and all of that. But 6 months, I was stuck in India. And then I went back in the month of December. February, COVID hits, and June or July, my mom passes away. Had this thing not happened, I would have not gotten the chance to spend 6 months with my mom. And I was working in the nights. So daytime, fully with the family, and the night time, I would get to work. The sleep was compromised, but I'll take it. So I didn't see it at that time. But later on, you end up making these links. When my mom passed away, exactly at that time, my company had because of COVID, their business had a big problem, so they had some reorg, and my job was almost lost. I had an offer, and I took it when I came to India. Those people were accommodative. The old company was a bigger corporate. They wouldn't have allowed this. But 3 months, I stayed in India again from July, August, September. I stayed here for 3 months, again without any financial loss, spent time with the family after my mother left us. And that wouldn't have been possible had I still had my old job. So a lot of things happen, and at that time we don't make the link. But again, trying to re-emphasize, let's do the action, let's detach from the outcome. Because the outcome, we can't see the larger scheme of things. He has a better idea, so let's just leave it to him. I'll end with just one final experience here, which kind of talks about an example of true realization in action. So the true realization of what this is supposed to be. What should the ideal behavior be like? Suppose we are doing this surrender, thinking, contemplation every day. What should it look like, right? Swami isn't directly involved here, by the way, but Swami has imprints written all over this experience. Right about the time in 2020 around COVID, my grandfather also had a minor heart failure incident. And at 85, he was going to go through an open heart surgery. At 85. My mom at that time was very worried. She was doing all the research, so she was very tense and all of that. So she did all the research. My grandfather finally went through the operation. The operation was a success. My mom came onto a call to see my grandfather recover. And in 2 days, my mom left. At that time, my grandfather was in the hospital and all COVID protocols. So nobody can be there, right? Now we are thinking how to break this news to my grandfather. He was 85. My aunt, so my mom's sister, she came to the hospital. And in the room, she told my grandfather, how are you and all of that. And he was like, I'm feeling better. How are you all? How is Arushi? My Masi said, she's no more with us. Now think about this. An 85-year-old just gone through a heart surgery, loses his daughter. At that time, what would the reaction be? What can happen? And what does my grandfather do? He narrated this to me 2 days back, actually. I didn't tell him I was speaking here, but I was trying to get details. And what he told me was, I closed my eyes. I thought about Swami. Once actually, he had asked Swami, when will you be fine, Swami? Because Swami was in the wheelchair and all. Swami had asked, what do you want? He said, become fine and all of that. And Swami had said, you still think I'm the body? And my grandfather said that was a revolutionary sentence for him, and it stuck with him. So at that moment, he closed his eyes when he heard about my mom. And then he said, she was a very happy soul. She's with Swami. And he smiled. He has not shed a tear. I don't think he has shed a tear ever in front of any of us. He must have felt emotionally. He's human. Swami had cried all the last 5 years that he was there. But he showed us the ideal behavior on what it looks like. Do your effort and don't care for the actions. Everything is in his hands. Even today, it's not that our troubles are over. If anything, they're more. If I start counting towards it, it'll be another Samarpan session. Every aspect of our life seems more in trouble today. But what at least I feel like I have today, a clarity of vision, a clarity of thought. And I have tools that Swami has equipped me with, which keep me steady at these times. Because, Kunti would always ask Krishna for troubles, like the same concept, wherein the more you are put under pressure, the more you get chiseled. And how you react to those situations is what Swami has trained us for. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and listening patiently, and this opportunity to Swami for speaking through me and hopefully helping everybody. Sai Ram.